Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Late Show. This is your host, Young Brando. We're live from Los Angeles, and we're going to talk about watches this Saturday night. I'm so glad you're able to join me. We are going to take a peek at the Geneva fall auction season. Um, I think there are some loose ends that I didn't cover at Christie's Geneva in their passion for time selection, which is a single owner collection, a single owner, watches curated from the collection of a single person, one Mohammed Zaman from Qatar. I've covered most of those watches over the two most recent live streams. I wasn't online yesterday, and I do apologize for that, but I'm here today. And we are also going to look at their rare watches selection, which does not have a similar selection principle. So it has a little bit of everything, pretty much. So this was the passion for time, which we have mostly covered. I have to say, even though there are, of course, the usual suspects from Rolex, Patek, and even Lange and others, there was also an incredible number of very unique pieces from new independents and some otherwise extremely rare timepieces as well, in terms of the examples accumulated or collected over the years. So I will perhaps just drop that link in the chat as well, if you would like to somehow ping me back with a lot number from there. I'll be happy to go into that selection and bring up some watches so that we can discuss them in further detail too. But I will start with the selection of rare watches, which is a live event that's going to take place on the same day in Geneva as well by Christie's, which more or less covers a lot of the usual suspects. Again, there's a sprinkling of some really unique stuff in there, which I've started highlighting with my thumbnail, but we'll most certainly go back and explore. There's that FP Jaune Biblos that I put on the thumbnail, which is a special edition, a limited edition of the chronomètre bleu that was made for the opening of the Beirut boutique for FP Jaune. And it has this very special arabesque style cutout on the dial, which I think is absolutely stunning. There was also an even more limited number of this piece with what I believe were Eastern Arabic numerals. I might be mistaken, but when I'm discussing the watch, I'll bring that up as well. I'm sure we can find some representation of that too. There's a very interesting platinum line sport single button or mono pusher rattrapante chronograph with a purple dial, with a very striking purple dial that was also a limited edition piece. I believe in this case, even more limited, should be one of 10 Again, a beautiful AP Royal Oak perpetual calendar in stainless steel with platinum accents, the accents being the octagonal bezel, as well as the tapering interlinks of the bracelets, and a Tuscan blue dial. This is a 25686 SP, again, one of only 25 pieces. Very interesting and strikingly executed number. There's the T30, the Tourbillon wristwatch made by F. Bergeron to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the first watch that he made carrying his own name. Triptych collection of Vagabondage that includes all the 3 iterations of the brand, of the model, I should say, of the jumping hour, jumping minutes, a simplicity with a royal blue dial and a 2-hander execution, and many other interesting pieces. So we might as well just start. I think I will start with what many consider to be the king of the Nautilus line in the Patek catalog today. This is the Patek Philippe Nautilus Perpetual Calendar. The reference number is 5740, line 1G, meaning that it is fully executed in 18-karat white gold case and bracelets. And this particular example was actually originally retailed by Tiffany's. So it does carry that Tiffany & Co. signature, the double signature that is applied right under the cutout for the moon phase indicator. Of course, the reason that people go crazy about the 5740 is not only due to the prestige of the complication, and especially it being a perpetual calendar from Patek, but also its absolute sleekness. Of course, you can say again that it is white metal and it is in white gold, so that certainly has a very luxuriant appeal as well. But I think what really pulls people in is how sleek and thin this watch is. I think it's like a smidgen thicker than the 5711. Both models being right around 8.3 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, the original Jumbo was slightly thinner at around 7.6. I see people are trickling in, so please feel free to hit the like button. The model has the classic ribbed dial design of the Nautilus in that black and blue gradient expression. A pointer date at 6 o'clock, which encircles the moon phase indicator. At 3 o'clock, the subdial for the month, in which the leap year indicator is ensconced. And at 9 o'clock, you have the days of the week with microhands for 20 hours lodged inside it, lodged within it. That, of course, also serves as a day-night indicator. Of course, the leap year indicator and the 24-hour indicator is mostly for the convenience of resetting the watch, but they have become part and parcel of the visual aesthetics on the dial as well. So you somehow have to find a way to fit them. And I have to say, in this particular case, there's also a very attractive balance to the way that everything is laid out. It's kind of, in a very simple, compact chronograph kind of layout. Of course, this is a perpetual calendar. Again, to display all the information and have a moon phase indicator is not something that you can take for granted in such a relatively small package. Think of the perpetual calendar version of the Bulgari Octofinissimo, for example, which forgoes the moon phase indicator to, I'm sure there's some aesthetic justification on their part. I'm sure Fabrizio Bonamassa Stigliani perhaps was too modernist to simply include a moon phase indicator for sheer romanticism, perhaps, but I think it also helps them shave a little bit off from the caliber and ultimately also achieve a certain balance of expression on the face of the watch, which in this case allows you to see that you might not necessarily have to make such sacrifices. Of course, the profile of the case is made possible by the micro rotor caliber that builds on the legacy of 240. This particular lot actually comes with those cufflinks, which were part of the presentation photo. So in addition to the full suite of accessories that should come with your 5740 Line 1G, This piece also includes a pair of 18-karat white gold Patek Philippe Nautilus cufflinks and the Tiffany and Company outer packaging, and a nice little travel pouch for those cufflinks as well. Of course, the certificate of origin, which is dated 2021, is stamped Tiffany and Company as well, so that the provenance of the piece is established. This is lot 96 from Christie's upcoming November 6th Rare Watches auction. And the estimated value of the piece is in the range between 200,000 to 400,000 Swiss francs. I want to actually go next to the watch that I shared on the thumbnail, but it will make more sense, I think, if I were to first speak of the chronomètre bleu, which is, of course, much more popular, much more, much easier to come by, which doesn't necessarily mean it is easy to acquire, especially through retail, especially through FB Jaune boutiques, especially as a first purchase. The piece has a very striking blue dial, which gains a kind of two-tone expression by the radial finish in the off-center seconds dial, and it also allows for the full appreciation of that dial by eliminating, you might say, or by foregoing the power reserve indicator, which, for example, is a default part of the chronomètre Souverain. The chronomètre bleu case is also slightly smaller at 39 millimeters, and it is fashioned out of tantalum, which had a resurgence in popularity, you might say also due to the hype surrounding this watch. Chronomètre bleu was actually released in 2009, but I think the hype really took off around 2016 to 17. And even if it was designed as a youthful entry into FB Jaune's catalog, I think along with their unique quartz-operated watch, the Elegant, it is today perhaps one of the most requested pieces from FB Jaune boutiques. A lot of people like to think that François-Paul Jaune came up with the material himself, perhaps dug it up, with his own hands or something. Of course, AP, I think already in the late 80s, but most certainly in the 90s, used tantalum pretty extensively throughout their lineup, usually in two-tone expressions or tone-on-tone expressions, sometimes in combination with 18-karat pink gold, other times with stainless steel. And you can see those combinations in a variety of Royal Oaks, such as the Nick Faldo Championship watch 56715, if I'm not mistaken, That was their first collaboration with the famous golfer. There are also tantalum and steel versions of the 14790, which is probably the most popular reduced-sized version of the Royal Oak. There were many, again, two-tone versions of the 14790 and other sizes of the Royal Oak using tantalum and pink gold, and the relatively popular but now eclipsed and discontinued UTM series has beautiful chronographs which combine tantalum and pink gold as well. The material, due to its shade of gunmetal gray, which is not necessarily very well represented in the particular lighting of this photo, perhaps this particular photo on FP Jean's own certificate is a little bit better in that aspect. That makes it very much a kind of sporty, almost technical material. Certainly much more relaxed than the kinds of precious metals that it is often compared with. Because, again, tantalum has this sort of heft, which compares favorably to titanium and stainless steel. So ultimately, the chronomètre bleu that is fashioned out of titanium ends up being a very unique and ultimately very aspirational contemporary dress watch for many. Of course, it is powered by the rather popular caliber 1304, which Jean uses in many of their watches, many of their time-only pieces, and also as the base of some other hand-wound movements. Of course, since the watch was first released in 2009, you would be hunting in vain for chronomètre bleu with brass movement, let's say. I've heard people hunting for that. Please don't. I don't think they exist, at least not in any sort of significant production number. Of course, you can find a number of different aspects of traditional finishing, such as the anglage on the bridges, the Geneva stripes that decorate those bridge plates, the main plate, which finds a mix of a barleycorn motif and perlage as well. Ultimately, I think architecturally very interesting and balanced look, and certainly easy on the eyes. So that is chronomètre bleu for you. And this particular example is lot what is it? Okay. This particular example is lot 31, which comes with its certificate of authenticity, the presentation box, as well as the outer packaging. That blue dial perhaps brings out some of the more luxurious shades and hues out of that largely gunmetal gray case. And a very compelling package if you like a blue dial watch. And blue dials are somehow everyone's favorite at the end of the day. This piece has a rather conservative estimate, but prices have been calming down quite significantly. So who knows? It remains to be seen how this will perform. But the pre-auction estimate is set between 30,000 to 50,000 in Swiss francs. Hey, what's up, number one? Let me quickly post a few links to see if some others might want to join us. Yeah, pretty heartbreaking, isn't it, to hear that Matthew Perry has passed away earlier today. Very sad. Incredibly young, too. I'm sure many of you know him, of course, as Chandler Bing from Friends. But you might also be familiar with his troubles with addiction. Unfortunately, seems to have succumbed to his demons, which is always quite devastating to hear. So let's go to lot 33, lot number 33, which is a special version that was made in 99 examples for the opening of the Beirut boutique for FB Jean. That was the 10th boutique for the brand globally. And the boutique was apparently, I think, opened in 2014, which happens to be the 5th anniversary of the Chronomètre Bleu as well. It is named after the Lebanese city that is some kilometers north of Beirut on the coastal line. It used to be a very important trading port in its time. It's also known in Arabic as Jubail, like a little mountain, and it's a biblical city. All sorts of references to it historically. One of the cradles of Euro-Mediterranean or Eastern Mediterranean civilization, and of course associated with Phoenicianism as well. And there is an implicit reference in the color scheme of the dial, which in the part of the movement displayed through the arabesque style cutouts looks kind of like a rising sun, which contrasts with the blue of the hour track, which can be, of course, favorably compared to the blue hues of the Mediterranean Sea. A very, very beautiful watch. The J in the F. Jean logo is also replaced by its Phoenician counterpart, Yod. Yod also happens to be apparently the 10th letter of the Phoenician alphabet, which of course marks the Beirut boutique as the 10th of its kind. Now I want to show you the version with the Arabic numerals, because that's also very interesting and perhaps even more rare. And I think that was made in another edition of about 20 pieces or so. So not necessarily included in this 99 piece run, but it is otherwise quite the same as the limited edition Beirut boutique version of the Chronomètre Bleu, which is the F.P. Jean Biblos, as the plaque that carries the signature of the brand identifies it. You know, many times I have said I don't really like skeletonized and open work dials, especially when it's just done for the sake of it, which you might argue is the case here, because what is this after all? A time-only watch? What are we exactly displaying? But this is a watch that I think is so thoughtfully designed in terms of the choice of motif and the combination of colors between the 18 carats pink gold movement that's exposed through that arabesque style cutout, and the blue of the remaining parts of the dial, which is mostly the hour track and the railroad track for the minutes. I think this is a very, very beautiful watch. Probably one of my favorites F.P. Jean watches ever made, quite close to the Octa chronograph, which has to be my favorite line. Incidentally, also quite limited, not necessarily because it's a limited edition, but because I think it only existed in the catalog for about 4 years. This particular piece is apparently number 64 out of 99. And it does include all the goodies that you would expect to have with it. Of course, the tantalum F.P. Jean buckle that goes with it, the certificate that dates back to the release 2014, as well as the presentation box and its outer packaging. I'd really appreciate it if you would hit the like button, just to give me a little bit of a boost, just to give this small fry channel a little bit more exposure. Lot 33, which is one of 99 pieces. FP Jaune Chronomètre Bleu Byblos, made for the opening of the Beirut boutique, with a partially open worked dial that combines very pleasantly the 18 karat pink gold of the movements and a cutout chronomètre bleu dial for an appreciation on the face of the watch. As you see, of course, this is the same caliber 1304, and the piece is signed on that barley corn patterned part of the main plate as Chronomètre Byblos. Due to the rarity of the piece, it is estimated to fetch a final amount somewhere in the range between 100,000 to 200,000 in Swiss francs. Next up is lot number 34. Which is a monopusher split seconds chronograph from the line sport selection of FP Jaune. Here it combines platinum with rubber accents for a unique and sporty look. Incidentally, this is the first example to come up on public auction, apparently. The line sport case is relatively oversized compared to other pieces in FP Jaune's catalog. 44 millimeters, ceramic tachymeter bezel inserts, calibrated in kilometer, if I'm not mistaken. And a guilloche decorated purple dial with a kind of Claude Paris design or pattern, hobnail pattern at the center of the dial. 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock and running seconds at 9, and a big date expression at 6 o'clock. There's a version of this with Arabic numerals, which is a limited edition. I came across a video of it, which can demonstrate what it means to have single button split seconds. You see he did start and stop with the upper pusher and then split the seconds with the lower pusher. And now when he hits the upper pusher, it stops. Lower pusher helps them catch up. Upper pusher resets. The case is 44 millimeters, but I believe it is less than 7 millimeters thick. And this piece, of course, unlike the titanium version, has a movement in 18 karat pink gold, which you can see through the back here. Eighty-hour power reserve on that caliber 1518. Again, the start-stop resets is controlled by the single pusher at 2 o'clock, and the lower pusher, the pusher at 4 o'clock, controls the split seconds. A very beautiful watch, if not necessarily as popular as the Centigraph, or as rare as the Octa chronograph. Certainly very technically capable in its own right, and therefore it has a pre-auction estimate that is set between 80,000 to 160,000 in Swiss francs, and obviously it does come with the full suite of its original accessories. This FP Jaune monopoussoir rattrapante chronograph in platinum from the Line Sport collection. Let's take a look at lot 46. Once again, if you would like me to pay particular attention to any of the lots, if you want me to skip ahead or rewind back to one of your favorite watches, feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat, and I would be more than happy to dive in with horological and historical detail. This is a beautiful and rare Royal Oak Perpetual calendar with one of those hand-hammered Tuscan / Florentine dials. It is a very unique pattern that gives it also an almost unique hue, an interesting shade of blue. Reference 25686 is very much a Royal Oak Perpetual calendar in the older molds, even though coming from 1994, it also has the leap year indicator within the subdial at 12 o'clock. but that beautiful balanced look with 4 subdials, or if you want 3 subdials and the moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock. And as I mentioned, the case and bracelets are primarily made in stainless steel, whereas the octagonal bezel, as well as the tapering interlinks of the bracelets, are actually in platinum. Here's a closer look at that unique Tuscan finish on the dial. This was a limited edition of 25 pieces, with the particular example bearing number 3 out of 25. From this reference number, 25686, altogether less than 300 examples were made, 70 in yellow gold, 92 in steel, 32 in pink gold and platinum, 31 in platinum, 18 in pink gold, 25 in platinum and pink gold, and 26 in stainless steel and platinum. As I mentioned, this is the old school version, so the case proportions are very similar to the Royal Oak Jumbo, to the original Jumbo, 39 millimeters in diameter. Lot 46 of Christie's Geneva Rare Watches, November 6th, is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere in the range between 110,000 to 220,000 in Swiss francs. There's a platinum version of that same reference number sitting right next to it, with a pitch black dial that uses 9 brilliant cut diamonds as their hour markers. This, as you see, does not actually have the leap year indicator at 12 o'clock, so earlier in production. And in this case, it is fully executed in platinum. Case, bracelet, bezel, everything is in platinum. As you can see, this example 2 comes with all its accessories. And as you can see, has a very nicely executed version of the perpetual calendar movement built on the base of JLC 920 as its beating heart. With an open worked oscillating weight that is supplemented by an additional 21 carats piece, and that is skeletonized precisely to put the initials of the two founding families in sharp relief. Hey, Captain Kirk. Yeah, I love these. It's a great version. This is apparently one of only 5 in this particular combination. $25,686 SP. Ouch, of course. Now that I looked at SP, I'm realizing it is actually stainless steel and platinum. So my apologies. It's stainless steel with platinum accents. So very, very sorry for the confusion there. This is from around 1996. And it has a pre-auction estimate that is in the range between 100,000 to 200,000 in Swiss francs. For something that's a little more muted, just as functional, with the same complication, with the same ultra-thin, self-winding, perpetual calendar complication. You have this beautiful round case with a stepped bezel and rather stubby lugs, contributing altogether to a very classic design. This is an AP perpetual calendar from around the same time periods, from 1994. The reference number is 25657 BA, so in 18 karat yellow gold. A silver dial with furniture matching that yellow gold case, including gold hands for hour and minutes, but the calendrical indicators actually have stainless steel heat blued hands, which provide a very nice accent in their coordination with the starry sky of the moon phase indicator, but also allow perhaps for a more distinct legibility. And the estimated value here is a fraction of what its contemporary Royal Oak perpetual calendars are. And here that is between 10,000 to 15,000 in Swiss francs. And certainly you can find examples of this reference and similar AP perpetual calendar watches in this classic round case in that price range any day of the week and twice on Sunday. If you want some recommendations, feel free to drop me a line. This is certainly a great watch for the money, especially if you are not necessarily wedded to the Royal Oak design, and especially if you are not, again, looking for something that exhibits masterfully finished high horology movement. Although, of course, the movement here is the same movement, largely finished to the same standards, just with a different rotor, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not like you're losing out in terms of the quality here, just really its expression. That was lot number 47 for an AP self-winding perpetual calendar in a 36 millimeter 18 karat yellow gold case with stubby lugs and a stepped bezel, and a pre-auction estimate that's set between 10,000 to 15,000 Swiss francs. Hey, Nick Butter. Nice to see you, man. Let's go back to FP Jaune a little bit. This is the famous T30, which has a very unique combination of materials. Here, they have developed also an interesting level of patina as well. T30 is a very interesting watch for a number of reasons. As a limited edition FP Jaune watch, it is doubly attractive to the diehard collector, because not only is it only found in 99 examples, it also harkens back to that first pocket watch François-Paul Jaune built as a watch, as the first watch that carried his name on the dial. It also has a combination of materials that seem to speak to that pocket watch legacy. This is a 40 millimeter sterling silver case with pink gold parts as well. It celebrates the first tourbillon pocket watch made by François-Paul Jaune in 1983. Subtly cased in sterling silver and pink gold bezels. It also has, as you can see from here, a case back that has a beautiful barley corn guilloche decoration, and that carries at its center the unique number for the watch in the series. Here, as you can see, the sterling silver, the 925 silver, has acquired some burnish over time, and the pink gold bezels some oxidization. As you can see, the half hunter case, the hinged case back, has a beautiful mirror polished finish on the inside, which you can literally use for that to take a peek onto this movement from various angles. You can even have it engraved in the old school style if you would like. Another unique aspect of this watch is, of course, post the transition to 18 karat pink gold movements that happened around 2004. This is the only production series watch, even though it's a limited edition as well, that has a brass plated movement, or rather that has a brass sorry about that, that has a brass movement that is also given a gilt and frosted finish that once again harkens back to the finishes of those classic pocket watch movements with oversized thermally treated screws. A very distinct and beautifully finished tourbillon bridge. A very beautiful watch, certainly a must have for the Jean collector. Classic, kind of a grainy silver dial, which has those subtle blue accents with both the set of Breguet hands for the hour and minutes, the two exposed screws that flank the main dial, and also subsidiary seconds dial that overlaps with the primary dial, has a hand that is similarly heat blued. Lots 52, due to this rarity and desirability, is expected to fetch an amount somewhere between 200,000 to 400,000 in Swiss francs. Yes, from distance, the dial does look like enamel, but it is a grainy silvered number that I think is also made out of a silver blank, if I'm not mistaken. An enamel dial, as you probably know, Captain Kirk, would be more spotless in a way, right? A very smooth finish, perhaps a similar shade of bone / off-white color oftentimes, but this is a little bit different in terms of its material and texture. Please hit the like button in the meantime. I'd like to bring up the slot 53 This is actually a very interesting set, a very beautiful set of these vagabondage series, which were all made in limited runs, 1, 2, and 3. I've talked about the story behind these watches in some detail before, so I'm not going to rehearse the entire history, but suffice to say that they have their origin in a project that was first commissioned from François-Paul Jean by Cartier. That should go some way in explaining the case shape, which really harkens to the Cartier Tortue design, even though it can be also otherwise described as a tonneau-shaped case. Apparently, the founder of Antiquorum watches department, Osvaldo Patrizzi, came to François-Paul Jean to ask for a limited edition piece to be made for the charity auction that was going to be held for the 30th anniversary of Antiquorum. And there wasn't much of any time left until the auction, so it was practically impossible to design something from scratch. Basically, François-Paul Jean scrambled through a few things and finally realized that he had some prototypes laying around for this project that was once commissioned to him by Cartier, having also previously worked on a jump hour piece in that unique special order project Carpe Diem. He was very much excited to revisit this jump hour watch in a tortue shaped case, which gave us the Vagabondage 1 that is displayed here in the middle, kind of a wandering jump hour expression. Vagabondage 2 has a smoked sapphire crystal with the digital expressions of hour and minutes, as well as the subdial 4 seconds laid on an interestingly shaped island at the middle of the face. That came out around 2010. And the Vagabondage 3 tackles something that's even more power hungry, perhaps, which has the digital expression of our centrally deployed minute hand, and again a digital expression of seconds that of course ticks, jumps every second with a power reserve indicator at the traditional 2 o'clock. These pieces were made in 69 examples, I believe, in platinum and 68 in pink gold. Apparently, there were 10 more examples with baguette cut diamonds. And over the years, there were also some sets, such as the one you are seeing now, that includes all the 3 watches in the series, Vagabondage 1, 2, and 3, that share the serial number, which is here number 36. Vagabondage 1, Vagabondage 2, and Vagabondage 3, which uses the remontoir d'égalité to also jump the seconds. All of these 3 examples are in pink gold, and they come as a full box set with matching serial numbers, number 36, respectively from 2006, 2010, and 2017, with a certificate of authenticity supplied from 2023. I think the case, the tortue-shaped cases have 38 by 45 or 37.5 by 35 in terms of their dimensions. And this sets the triptyque vagabondage being so rare, especially rarer in the unique combination of a box set, has perhaps a mouth and eye-watering estimate that is set between 500,000 to 1 million Swiss francs. Speaking of such eye-watering numbers, we should probably look at the next lots, which is number 54. This is a 38 millimeter stainless steel Philippe Dufort Simplicité, or Simplicity, the first Dufort watch apparently to be offered at public auction with a stainless steel case. The piece is also a two-hander and has a very unique but also subtle royal blue dial. Some would call it French blue, some would call it Prussian blue. You can call it whatever, depending on your own proclivities. In either case, I think it is a beautiful shade, which is complemented by applied obus-shaped indices for the hour markers and very striking classic Dauphine hands for the hour and minutes. beautifully finished movement with an oversized central jewel, broad Geneva stripes, and two hand-inscribed plates, which both provide the signature of Philippe Dufault and also certify it as pièce unique. Those plaques are set in place with heat-blued screws. The others are black polished, the other screws, I should say. Jewels all have beautifully mirror polished countersinks. And of course, the anglage on the bridge plates is quite breathtaking in its own right. This is, of course, both being Philippe Dufault simplicity and also the first stainless steel version to be sold, is one of those premium lots. Apparently, it has a certificate dated on June 3rd, 2021, which happens to be Philippe Dufault's 73rd birthday. Apparently, when this is from the lot essay, when Philippe Dufault handed over this remarkable steel simplicity wristwatch, he placed it into the commissioning client's hands with the unforgettable statement, "This is true simplicity." A beautiful blue lacquered dial without even the interruption of seconds hand on a subdial or centrally deployed. The 38 millimeter diameter is in and of itself pretty unique, since most simplicities are either going to be in the earlier smaller 34 millimeter case size or the later larger 37 millimeter. Very beautiful, if austere design, and a very inviting watch indeed. Aptly named Simplicity in a 38 millimeter stainless steel case with a blue lacquered dial and a pre-auction estimate that's set between 600,000 to 1.2 million Swiss francs. Nick Butter, yes, I guess the tonneau shape can be generally likened to a lot of Richard Mille watches, but Richard Mille largely takes the case shape after Frank Müller, which was all the rage in the 90s, and which was all, of course, itself reviving that roaring 20s barrel-shaped watches. The tortue itself belongs to that same earlier period. And it is one of those original Louis Cartier designs. I believe the first example was released in 1919. I might be mistaken. It can be a few years earlier, a few years later. I don't know, but let me just pull up an example so that you get an idea. The ones that you will find in a more contemporary way from the so-called Collection Privée Cartier Paris, the CPCP collection, will be these single button chronographs. And when it comes to the original design, let me see if I can find such a vintage example or what. I highly doubt it in a very quick search. But the outlines are pretty much the same. I don't want to say unchanged, but they have been, kind of rehearsed pretty reliably over time. But this is the original Cartier design. Probably here as 70s example or something. But yeah, that's the origin of F.P. Jean's Vagabondage, which adapts that tortoise-shaped Cartier design to its own purposes, and that has something to do with the fact that the project itself was first commissioned by Cartier. At any rate, we were talking about Lot 54 of rare watches, which is one-of-a-kind example of Philippe Dufour's simplicity, encased in 38 millimeters of stainless steel and with a blue lacquered dial and staggering estimate of 600,000 to 1.2 million Swiss francs. Yeah, again, the reason I pointed out the Frank Muller connection when it comes to Richard Mille is not necessarily to imply that, one takes from the other, but ultimately, all these shapes and designs have their own genealogy, and they're not really the exclusive property of one brand or another. They all take it from somewhere else, and I feel most of the case designs have been pretty reliably settled and stabilized in mid-20th century. There's hardly anything that has been invented after that. After that, it's variations, ergonomic improvements, perhaps, some aesthetic modifications, but hardly anything that changes the game until Jarajanta steps into the stage in 1970s. But what do I know? I'm a fanboy and nothing else. Just to shift gears a little bit and go into something contemporary. We were talking about stainless steel wristwatches that excite the collector. Historically, of course, stainless steel Patek Philippe dress watches, especially Calatravas, have had their own appeal. So when the 5212A came out, it was bound to be a revelation. It has also, I think, benefited from carrying a complication that is unique within Patek Philippe's catalog, which is the weekly calendar. Of course, it doesn't only have a weekly calendar, it has a date indicator, which you can see through a window at 3 o'clock. It also has the days of the week around the center of the dial, which is again indicated with a centrally deployed hand. And it also, on the perimeter of the dial, indicates the week within the year. Otherwise, it's a three-hander with applied blackened obus-shaped indices for the hour markers, and again, a blackened set of Dauphine hands for the hour and minutes. Kind of cream or off-white shade on the dial. A stainless steel case. .40 millimeters in diameter and with a stepped lug design. This particular example is 2019, is from 2019. Which I believe was the year of this model's introduction. And to enhance perhaps that oddball slash youthful slash dynamic aspect of this particular Calatrava, it is also mounted on classic tan-colored leather strap with contrast stitching, which gives it kind of a sporty look. This is the 5212A-001, the Patek Philippe self-winding weekly calendar Calatrava at lot 57. In stainless steel and with a pre-auction estimate between 20,000 to 40,000 in Swiss francs. Again, if you would like me to take a look at a watch of your choice, if you want me to cover something that I skipped or that I didn't get a chance to talk about yet, feel free to send in a super chat. With the lot number, and I will be more than happy to go into some detail. I want to take a look again, at one of the most desirable pieces, one of the absolute classics of the neo-vintage era. This is the 5004. 5004 is the perpetual calendar split seconds chronograph, offered in the 36.5 millimeter case. 5004 is the contemporary of 3970, and it is also built on the base of the Nouvelle Lemania caliber CH27, which is, of course, here modified with a split seconds chronograph function, in addition to the perpetual calendar module. This is, of course, to say nothing of the particular way Patek Philippe, of course, finishes, assembles, and regulates its perpetual calendar chronographs. Here, the pink gold case, which is already quite distinguished, is complemented beautifully by a black dial, applied Arabic numerals, leaf-shaped hands with the subtly recessed subdials for the chronograph at 3 and 9, giving that black dial a little bit more of depth and dimensionality, with that rattrapante or split seconds pusher integrated onto the crown, giving that relatively compact case a little bit more of a bite, a little bit more of a presence, a quirky presence at that. This is a very beautiful and also characterful watch, a watch that certainly has a very charismatic presence. Again, a Patek Philippe perpetual calendar chronograph from that classic era is quite something to begin with, without going back to 1518 or 2499. I'm sure once you had some time to spend with a 3970 or 5970, you would appreciate it. Of course, the contemporary 5270 has something to offer as well. But 5004 is truly a remarkable beast. You can see it here presented on its certificate of origin and next to its original presentation box as well. And of course, juxtaposed with the matching déployant clasp, which carries the Calatrava cross, and the additional 18-karat pink gold case back, which is absolutely essential if you need that extra heft on your wrist. Of course, most would probably settle for the convenience of just having the ability to turn the watch around and engross themselves in the architecture of this split seconds chronograph movement that, of course, carries on its balance bridge that stamp of approval, that mark of honor, the hallmark of Geneva. This piece is from 2002. Apparently, it also comes with an additional 18 karat pink gold buckle, in addition to the déployant clasp, a service invoice, product literature, the leather folder to hold all these documents, the original presentation box, as well as outer packaging. And apparently, the black dial was actually fitted by Patek Philippe. Because the standard version for 5000R was the silver dial. So at the service, this particular dial was fitted to the watch. I'm not sure, and I don't think really if the original silver dial is part of the package. But with all due respect, I wouldn't miss it because the watch looks like $1,000,000 in this current configuration. Dear Nick, I'm going to get to your super chat right now after I finish this, which is lot number 60 of Christie's Geneva Rare Watches, a live event coming up in Geneva on November 6th. Patek Philippe reference 5004R, a perpetual calendar split-second chronograph in pink gold, 39.5 millimeters in diameter, and as a beautiful set with a black dial fitted at service by Patek Philippe and with an estimated value that is set in the range between 280,000 to 480,000 Swiss francs. Let's see what our friend Nick Butter is saying. Nick Butter, thank you so much. $10. Guys, also, I don't like pumping all this self-promotion all the time, so I do apologize. But the channel memberships are also a great way of supporting the channel regularly, so feel free to consider that, which will give you access to an entire archive of exclusive content, which only gets kind of shared with the public over time. And I'm going to hopefully supplement that quite a bit as well. Perhaps some of the older archives are going to start hiding behind that membership wall. I'm considering a few different options, but I'm not going to do that before I add onto the 3 weekly videos that I provide exclusively for the members. Nick says, sorry for going off the theme of classic vintage. I don't mind at all, Nick. This channel is open to watches from all different eras, all different brands, and all different price points as well. But I'm looking at lot 38, the Music AP. Yes, this is the Royal Oak Offshore Music, right? Let's take a look at that. Lot 38 with the equalizer theme. Mix of titanium and ceramic. I wouldn't worry about it. I think you joined right after, Nick. I'll show you this. I don't know if you have ever seen a tantalum watch, and especially chronomètre bleu in person, but tantalum appears actually quite dark, right? In a very striking gunmetal gray tone. They did the shots, at least for this particular auction, in a lighting that shows everything to be perhaps too exposed, I want to say, without necessarily using specific photographic terminology here, which I'm ignorant of at any rate. And if you look at this, for example, where you have their photo of the chronomètre bleu, which looks like mirror polished beyond recognition, and that still photo of the tantalum on the certificate of authenticity, which is in itself quite misleading, but basically the shade of the tantalum in its natural daylight appearance should be somewhere between this still and the auction photograph. So in the same way, when we look at 38, which is the 15600 ceramic titanium AP Royal Oak Offshore Music with the equalizer dial, I wouldn't worry too much about how this looks in Christie's photographs, because as you can see, it's, for example, here, it doesn't look like it is so aggressively brushed. It looks like a much more subtle and refined vertical satin brushing, as it should. I think it's just the lighting that makes that first photo look a certain way. I actually love this watch. I think this is just a very cool design with a bunch of different details. I appreciate that AP experiments with the tapisserie dial, always keeping the classic petite tapisserie pattern for the jumbo. They have done a bunch of different examples, like the Carolina Bucci reduced sized piece, which I think, what was it? The reference 77350, which has kind of this oil spill color combination that has an abstract representation of the tapisserie pattern, or this style, which is kind of like grande tapisserie, but with the colorful equalizer pattern, makes it look like a completely different and original design. I also like the fact that all the different details from these extended interlinks, which connect the case to the bracelets, that look like the dials, right, on an equalizer itself, or similarly like slides that here look like crown guards, right? All these little elements of design that speak to that music deck equalizer feel. It's just an amazing design. If you have no sympathy for it, you might say it's trying too hard, it's a little bit tacky. I think everything just falls into place. And you guys know, on the one hand, I love AP in terms of its heritage. When it comes to the contemporary line and everything that goes with it, I actually have a lot of strong feelings against it. But This is one of the releases that I thoroughly enjoyed ever since it first came out. This is the black ceramic version with titanium details, which was made in a limited edition of 250 pieces. Has that black tapisserie dial that we were talking about with 10 different colors also that replicate the VU meter display of a music deck equalizer. Those knurled studs are inspired by jack plugs, and the large crown guards are imitations of faders on mixing consoles. And another reason that that finish perhaps looks a little different might be because of the material too. You know, perhaps the juxtaposition of titanium and ceramic too might make you doubt certain elements of the finish that you otherwise appreciate in a different way. One of 250 pieces. This is the AP Royal Oak Offshore Music Edition. Black ceramic with titanium details. Reference 15600 CE from 2022. The piece has an estimated value between 30 to 50,000 in Swiss francs. Yeah, I think in part it's also the ceramic that makes the finish look a little bit different than what we are used to, perhaps. Thank you for highlighting this. Right next to it, there's another black ceramic piece. This is basically the more plain Jane version of that Carolina Bucci edition that I was just talking about. That was made in a limited edition with that unique dial. This is the reference 77350 CE, which is Audemars Piguet Royal Oak self-winding in black ceramic in the reduced size of 34 millimeters. Black ceramic case and bracelets with, of course, pink gold details on the dial, handset, and even in terms of the inscription of the date that peeks through the window, a black tapisserie dial, and even a pink gold cap on the bolt-like crown of the watch. I believe here, in this case, even the hexagonal bolts on the octagonal bezel are also in pink golds. in most other materials that are used for the Royal Oak case. Such bolts are usually white gold, which take on a very charming champagne tint of patina over the years. But this is a very nice contrast right out of the box for the black ceramic, I think. This is lot 39 for the 34 millimeter black ceramic AP Royal Oak self-winding, reference 77350 CE, with an estimated value set between 25,000 to 45,000 in Swiss francs. Since we're looking at modern AP, this is relatively modern, relatively recent. The now discontinued reference of the Royal Oak Jumbo, this is the 15202, perhaps the most popular, since in its refreshed 40th anniversary edition in 2012, it had a good decade-long reign, even though it existed in a slightly different aesthetic in the AP catalog for even longer than that. But 2012 marked the reintroduction of reference 15202 with design details that resonated very strongly with the original release from 1972 that was designed by Gerard Janta, namely the reference 5402, all in stainless steel with the Petite Tapisserie dial. Of course, a two-hander with the date at 3 o'clock, the signature of the brand and automatic at 12 o'clock, and the applied AP initial logo at 6 o'clock. The major quote-unquote updates at first glance compared to the original Jumbo was the background of the date wheel, which now matches the color of the dial. Otherwise, we have the classic proportions, 39 millimeter in diameter, and the ultra thin case, 8.1 millimeters in height. That goes to explain the modern naming of this model. The Jumbo, when it came out with the 39 millimeter diameter case and its integrated bracelet design, was a relatively large watch, especially within Audemars Piguet's lineup of quite elegant, refined dress watches. Over the years, of course, since AP started making increasingly bigger pieces, and in fact, larger versions of the Royal Oak, especially through the Royal Oak offshore line, the Royal Oak Jumbo was also called now extra thin. And 15202 ended up being the last reference number to be built on the base of JLC 920 as its movement, which is an ultra-thin automatic movement with a full rotor, with a full oscillating weight, which is, of course, the core of this refined design for a self-winding luxury sports watch. AP's version of that movement was called Caliber 2121, which was replaced in the current reference 16202 with 7121. But altogether, basically, it took them 49 years to finally switch out of the original movement that accompanied the Jarajanta design upon its release in 1972. That same base was also the beating heart of the original Patek Philippe Nautilus Jumbo in 1976. And in 1977, it was also the core on which Vacheron Constantin's 222 was built as well. This is lot number 40, the now discontinued Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Jumbo Extra Thin, reference 15202 in stainless steel. This particular example being from 2017. The lot includes an undated warranty, a certificate of authenticity from this year, 2023, presentation box and its outer packaging. The piece is expected to fetch an amount somewhere between 30,000 to 50,000 in Swiss francs. Going to those origins, you're looking at a white gold version of the original Jumbo. Quite a rare beast to begin with. Only 150 pieces made, apparently, in white gold. This is number 44. Interestingly, since AP had not yet developed of making this watch out of stainless steel right out of the gate at the prototyping stage, the prototypes of the original Royal Oak were made in white gold. Apparently, the last Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, was the first person to order a Royal Oak, and he ordered a white gold version for himself, as well as a number of stainless steel pieces, both for himself and to give away to people around him. So a white gold AP Royal Oak also has that sort of original appeal as well, right? Since the first prototypes were made in white gold, even though the watch was designed in stainless steel, there is a kind of if you know kind of appeal or attraction to this particular watch. This is the 5402 BC. It's not only executed completely in 18 karat white gold and has the requisite heft that goes with it. It also has a beautiful blue dial that has elements of tropicalization, which has 11 brilliant cut diamonds as its hour markers. The piece has thin pencil shaped hands, and of course the date window at 3 o'clock as well. Number 44, as you can see from the case back. And the original early bracelet in white gold as well. The pre-auction estimate is here set between 100,000 to 200,000 for lot number 44, which is an AP Royal Oak Jumbo 5402 BC, all in white gold and with a dial that's diamond set at the factory. Speaking of unique examples here, you have the number 1 two-tone expression of the original jumbo. This is the 5402 SA, meaning it has a stainless steel case and bracelet, but an octagonal bezel and tapering interlinks in 18 karat yellow gold. This is number 1, so the first piece made in this particular configuration. Very appealing in its own way. And honestly, the two-tone versions of the original jumbo are usually the best deal compared to all other metals, even though they are, in a certain sense, even more rare. I believe certainly less than 1,000 examples, probably even less than 900. I think this particular piece was also exhibited at the 50th anniversary celebration of the Royal Oak, but by AP. So it has a certificate that accompanies it and that testifies to that fact, which is as good as any archival extract, I suppose. And of course, once again, the case back itself is engraved as number 1. If you don't necessarily have to have the first one, as I mentioned, the 5402 SA is probably or SA rather, is probably the best deal to be found among the original jumbo. This one being number 1 at lots, number 43 of Christie's Geneva Rare watches, is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere between 100,000 to 200,000 in Swiss francs. I'm gonna grab a quick drink of water while you guys look at this B series, again, original AP Royal Oak Jumbo, with a classic Petite Tapisserie dial that matches the stainless steel case with, interestingly, round, brilliant cuts, diamonds for its hour markers. Which in itself is a very subtle and beautiful setting compared to the square setting that we have just seen in the white gold version. While you look at that and hit the like button, I'll quickly grab a drink of water. I'll be right back. If you want me to look at any particular watches, the link is in the chat. Feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat, and I will be more than happy to take a look at those watches in some detail for you. All right, I'm back. I'm probably gonna go for another 2 hours, so there's a good chance that I'll be able to finish this. But again, if you want me to prioritize any of the pieces, the link is there. Feel free to choose and send in the lot number. We are looking at lot number 42, pardon me, of Christie's Rare Watches, which is an auction coming up in Geneva on November 6th. This is a B series AP Royal Oak Jumbo. And they're roughly 1,500 examples in each series between A, B, C, and D. So this basically belongs to that second batch. And a very beautiful dial indeed, with those round cut diamonds set on a circular mount, and with a refined and rather diminutive set of pencil hands for the hour and minutes, a kind of oversized initial logo standing between 12 o'clock and the classic Audemars Piguet signature. Very beautiful version of the stainless steel original jumbo, a very unique version from around year 1978, all in stainless steel, but with a diamond set dial. The piece has an estimated value between 40,000 to 60,000 in Swiss francs. I was going to say with in Swiss dollars or something. Sorry, I'm a little out of it tonight. Saturdays have been very interesting, to say the least, in downtown LA. I don't want to get into it, but it's pretty traumatizing. Maybe on another occasion we'll be able to talk about these issues, but today is not today. There are a number of, like a trilogy of F. Péjon pieces here between lot 49 and 51. I'll start with the most expensive and work my way down. Here's a chronomètre résonance from the Ruthenium series. The Ruthenium series, I think, was a very ingenious marketing campaign that kind of, presided over the transition from brass movements, rhodium-plated brass movements, to movements executed largely out of 18-karat pink gold for F. Péjon watches. They had still brass movements, which they combined with platinum cases. 99 pieces in each model, in addition to a unique series of octa day and night, jour et nuit. These pieces had introduced the larger 40 millimeter cases and had ruthenium plated movements, which they matched with ruthenium coated dials. So overall, it has a largely monochromatic, but really shades of gray kind of aesthetic between the platinum case, the silvered dials that are mounted against the backdrop of a ruthenium coated dial, and also through the sapphire exhibition case back. On the back, a ruthenium coated or rather ruthenium plated brass movement that you can see through the back. This is number 34 of a 99-piece run of the chronomètre résonance from the ruthenium series in a 40 millimeter platinum case, ruthenium plated brass movements, and a ruthenium coated dial, and an estimated value that is set between $250,000 to 450,000 in Swiss francs. The piece does come with the full suite of its accessories. Again, the ruthenium collection was produced during the final phase of that brass movement era and had basically 5 models. The chronomètre résonance that you're seeing here, the tourbillon souverain, the octa calendrier, which is F. Bejon's take on the annual calendar, the octa chronograph, which, as I mentioned, is my absolute favorite, a flyback chronograph in classic expression, and the octa réserve de marche jour et nuit, which was a model that was only produced as part of the ruthenium collection. Next, at lot number 50, we have an early example of a chronomètre résonance with a pink gold movement. This is a piece from around 2004 with a 40 millimeter pink gold case and a gray gold dial as well. Chronomètre résonance basically combines 2 watches, 2 movements with their separate gear trains into a single case. And through the principle of resonance, by placing the 2 balance wheels in close proximity to each other, it manages to compensate for the errors of each other. Breguet had implemented this principle in pocket watches that were, of course, quite gigantic compared to the wristwatches of our time, 61 plus millimeters in diameter. F. Bijon, of course, first implemented this in 38 millimeter in diameter wristwatches. This particular piece comes in a 40 millimeter pink gold case with a matching movement that is largely executed, main plates and bridge plates in 18 karat gold. And the piece comes with the full set of its accessories at lot number 50. Is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere in the range between 100,000 to 200,000 in Swiss francs. Lot 49 is an Octa Réserve de Marche. This is a brass movement example, which probably explains the price point as well. From around year 2002, 38 millimeters in diameter with a gray gold dial with its now iconic and recognizable off-center dial for hour and minutes and an overlapping subsidiary dial for seconds. The piece also has a big date expression at around 11 o'clock, as well as a power reserve indicator that is calibrated for 120 hours. When this movement was first introduced, caliber 1300, it was, I believe, the first of its kind to have a full 5-day power reserve at with chronometric precision. Rhodium plated brass movements with the off-center deployment of a full 22 karat gold oscillating weight with its own barleycorn decoration. The bridge plates of the movement are treated with a circular Geneva stripe pattern. Very elegant and cool look. Of course, being from the brass movement era, we're looking at a 38 millimeter pink gold case. The piece is accompanied with its original 18 karat pink gold F. Bijon buckle, the certificate of authenticity from 2003, the original presentation box, as well as its outer packaging. lot 59 is 5070, Patek Philippe 5070 is the flagship chronograph of the Genevan maker that was introduced in 1998. It was, at the time of its introduction, not terribly popular, certainly a slow burner. With its 42 millimeter case that looked out of proportion for its movements, since it is actually built, as you can probably recognize by now, on the base of the Lemania CH27, which is one of those movements that is distinguished by its compactness. The piece was almost universally reviled. Nowadays, both because it is the last generation of Lemania CH27 based hallmark of Geneva bearing Patek Philippe chronographs, perhaps also because their relatively oversized 42 millimeter cases gained in appreciation over the years. They are now quite collectible. With the platinum versions perhaps being the most desirable, but I think we were just looking at the 5004 in pink golds with a unique black dial. Aesthetically, this is also incredibly pleasing. That combination of pink, gold, and black, I think, is quite striking and has a very interesting punch to it. Applied Arabic numerals, again, here, I think, echo fairly well with that design. The case itself, I think, with its stepped and rather sculptural aesthetics, is quite beautiful, if a little too large for my taste. And again, as you can see, both from the case back through these framing effects and the dial, which is kind of desperate to fill the negative space on it. The watch is just too big for the movement that is in it. That always disturbs me. That's probably my least favorite aspect of this watch, but I think overall it is quite a cool reference in retrospect, even though it existed, it had to occupy well, let me put it this way. It had to exist in the shadow of Alan Gonzune's Datograph that was released a year after it, and really set the gold standards for some time to come for high horology, hand-wound chronograph pieces by elite makers. Although, again, when you look at the movement here, of course, you see a caliber that is just as masterfully finished as generations of Patek Philippe watches, with beautiful, broad, and recognizable Côte de Genève on the bridges of the chronograph, the black polished cap on the column screw, column wheel. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired tonight. The jewels that are countersunk on the bridge plates. and the beautiful anglage too, of course. A very stunning watch in either case. The 5070 was, as I mentioned, originally introduced in 1998, discontinued in 2010. This particular example is one of those special editions that were made for London 2015 for the Patek Philippe Watch Arts Grand Exhibition. The series included quite a wide array of new versions of discontinued models that usually combined those iconic discontinued references with new dial colors. So this 5070 belongs to those rare number of pieces that combine the black dial with Arabic numerals with the pink gold case. This particular piece has a pre-auction estimate that's set between $250,000 to $450,000 in Swiss francs. Here we have the 5004P in lots 61. This is the dash 033. So black dial, diamond set at the factory with 10 brilliant cuts, diamonds for the hour markers, complemented with a single baguette cut at 12 o'clock. This is once again the perpetual calendar split-second chronograph in platinum. As you can see, it's presented here with its accessories, the setting pin, the additional case back in platinum, the original presentation case with its cherry-colored wooden appearance, and the certificate of origin, which serves as the ultimate backdrop. You can take a peek at this beautifully modified, finished, assembled, and regulated version. Of the Lemania-based movements. The 5004 actually had a relatively healthy period of existence from 1994 to 2012, I want to say. But because of both the complexity of the movement and the prestige and exclusivity of the pieces, they were made roughly in about 12 examples per year, right? One example a month, basically, in across the range of metals, right? There were, they can be found in pink gold, in yellow gold, in white gold, in platinum, of course, as you see in this example, very rarely in steel, and there was also an example in titanium for the Omni watch. And rumor has it that there were about 50 examples of stainless steel produced at the end. The lot includes the matching Patek Philippe déployant clasp, the certificate of origin from 2006, the additional solid case back in platinum, the setting pin, the product literature, the leather folder to hold all the documents, as well as the full original presentation box and its outer packaging. This is lot 61 for a Patek Philippe perpetual calendar split seconds chronograph, reference 5004 P-033. The piece has a pre-auction estimate set between 250,000 to 450,000 in Swiss francs. Lot 62 might be a piece that is deceptive in its simplicity, but it is one of those examples of Patek Philippe watches that are quite striking, unique, and still rather wearable. This is the reference 3939 HP-001, a platinum minute repeating tourbillon wristwatch. The piece has applied Breguet numerals for its hour markers, Breguet sets of hands to match, seconds on a subsidiary dial at 6, and a red minute track. Of course, there's a slide on the left flank of the case to activate the chiming functions of the watch. Look at those beautiful spokes on that central wheel. And the Calatrava cross that caps the governor of the minute repeater, and the tourbillon that you can see only through the exhibition case back at 6 o'clock on the reverse side, with a partially open worked and nicely finished bridge, black polished stainless steel hammers. The bridge plates are largely given circular Côte de Genève finish. The certificate of origin confirms the black dial with the red minute track, which is very unique. With the lot comes an additional platinum solid case back, the setting pin, sales tag, product literature, and the presentation box. The 3939 is already quite a rare reference, and a very prestigious one at that, combining the minute repeater with a tourbillon. Both, again, rarefied specialties of the maker. And this one, with its unique dial, can be even more attractive for all that. The piece has a rather diminutive case that is right over 33 millimeters in diameter, which makes the integration of the minute repeater and tourbillon in this rather compact case all the more impressive. Let's change gears a little bit. We're looking at lot number 70. This is Rolex day dates, reference 1811. A very special kind of day dates made for Amman, as you can see from the coat of arms that is at 6 o'clock. The 1811 has a unique bark finish, decoration on the bezel and on the center links of its presidential bracelets. There is a KR stamp on the case back, which are the initials of the world famous Armani Rolex retailer, Khimji Ramdas. As you can see, This is lot 70, which has an estimated value between 30,000 to 50,000 Swiss francs. There's a white gold Rolex day date right next to it with a similar provenance. This piece has a silvered opaline white dial, which has the signature of Qaboos, the Omani Sultan, in green at 6 o'clock. The piece has a smooth bezel, which gives an altogether different air to this Rolex day date watch, especially in the absence of the presidential bracelets, since this piece is mounted on a beige colored textured calfskin leather strap. This is reference 1802 from around mid 70s. Smooth bezel and in 18 carats white gold. The piece is expected to realize a final hammer price between 30,000 to 50,000 Swiss francs. The next two pieces I will talk about, rather, belong to the reference 5100 family in white gold and yellow gold. These are the Rolexes that are affectionately called the Texan or Tejano, reference 5100, powered by the famous Beta 21 quartz movements, which was all the rage at the time and quite disseminated in the selections of various brands, including Rolex and Patek Philippe. The piece has a sweep center seconds hand, even though it is a quartz-powered watch, thanks to these Beta 21 movements, which run the seconds hand by a pallet wheel, which gives it sweep center seconds. These watches were apparently made in 900 examples in yellow gold and 100 examples in white gold. As you see, this particular example is actually engraved on the back with number 590. This is the 5100 in yellow gold from around 1972. The Rolex Texan, 18 carats yellow gold, with an estimated value between 15,000 to 25,000 Swiss francs, and the much more rare white gold version at lot 74. The Rolex Texan reference 5100 that is powered by the famous Beta 21 movement, quartz powered with sweep seconds. This piece has a pre-auction estimate that is in the range between 60,000 to 80,000 in Swiss francs. At lots 80 and 81, we have a very unique and beautiful tourbillon wristwatch by none other than Breguet, which of course is the granddaddy of all when it comes to this particular genre. Abraham Louis Breguet was one of the first to patent tourbillon movements, and these watches, this Breguet Versailles model, the reference 1801, in a way honor that legacy with this half hunter case that has a very unique guilloche decoration on it and presents just the two hands of hours and minutes on a classic off-center Breguet dial when it's closed. Opens up to a stunning display of the oversized tourbillon cage, which is set in place with an open worked, beautifully finished, beautifully polished tourbillon bridge on which a second hand pivots as well. These pieces collaborate the 200-year anniversary of A.L. Breguet's patent, which was granted to him on June 26th, 1801. You're looking at the white gold version, which of course has that classic Breguet wristwatch design with an entirely fluted caseband, extended teardrop-shaped lugs, and also, if you look at the case back, the main plate on its back is decorated with these floral motifs that recognize the granting of Breguet's tourbillon patent with the dates according to the revolutionary calendar as well as the unique number of the watch. Apparently, it wasn't a limited edition, but they were still numbered starting from 1801. This is 1953, it seems. Very beautiful piece. The reference 1801 is certainly a thing of beauty when you open it and glimpse onto it, and a rather quirky but still an absolutely beautiful design when the half hunter hinged cover is on. This is lot 81, which is the white gold version. That has an estimated value between 40,000 to 80,000 in Swiss francs. And the pink gold version, which is number 1846, that one of the Breguet à Versailles reference 1801, which was released to commemorate the 200-year anniversary of the granting of a patent to Abraham Louis Breguet for his tourbillon. This is lot number 80 with an estimated value of 40,000 to 60,000 in Swiss francs. Please hit the like button while you're at it. I really, really appreciate it. It all makes a difference. It really does count. Continuing on the theme of Breguet tourbillon watches, here you are looking at a classic complication which combines the tourbillon with a perpetual calendar with a retrograde date hand, a serpentine hand at that, and it is an open-worked dial. You have, of course, the oversized tourbillon cage with an hand-engraved bridge at 6 o'clock. And then you have the off-center dial for the hours and minutes at 12 o'clock. That also has a fan-like scale at its center for the dates, which is indicated with a serpentine hand and which snaps back to 1 at the beginning of each month. Within that dial, at around 4:30, you have the indicator for the months, which also has the movement of the number. At around 8 o'clock, you have, or rather 8:30, you have the day of the week. The movement really looks beautiful with this open work treatment. And on the back too, with the hand engraved and open worked bridges. All of this is housed in a 40 millimeter pink gold case that is of classic Breguet wristwatch expression with an entirely fluted case band and extended teardrop lugs. Very aesthetically pleasing piece from Breguet. A tourbillon perpetual calendar, a classic complication in reference 3755 with an open worked dial, and a pre-auction estimate in the range between 60,000 to 100,000 in US dollars. Sorry, in Swiss francs. If you would like me to take a look at any of the lots from this auction, from the Rare Watches auction that's coming up at Christie's Geneva on November 6th, feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat. Lot 88 is a stainless steel example of the original Vacheron Constantin 222 with a silvered dial that is vertically grain brushed. The piece has a very unique bezel with a series of notches at its edge and a kind of honeycomb design on the bracelets, especially on the center links, and a single stamp of, or a single embossed Maltese cross at around 5 o'clock on the tonneau case. Of course, the brand's symbol, which is also represented at 12 o'clock, right above its signature, Vacheron Constantin Genève. The date window is framed in rhodium-plated white gold, just like the other fixtures of the dial. And the piece is in stainless steel. From around 1978, which is one of the early examples, 37 millimeters in diameter, and one of approximately 120 pieces made. Again, one of those pieces that everyone absolutely hated, that no one would touch with a 10-foot pole before the hype. Now, since the overseas itself caught a hype, after people had largely exhausted their resources for the Royal Oak and the Nautilus, the 222 made a strong comeback, which has, of course, been reinforced with the 2022 release of the design in their Les Historiques collection, where they make very faithful reproductions of their archival designs. Of course, that revival is in 18 karat yellow gold, which perhaps makes the original stainless steel even more desirable, even more aspirational in its own rights. And of course, people have now discovered that they have been made in extremely limited numbers, which of course always adds to the desirability. Sometimes people make the mistake of thinking that the 222 is designed by Jarajanta, just like its counterparts, just like its rough contemporaries in the AP Royal Oak and the Patek Philippe Nautilus. But in fact, the 222 was designed for the 222nd anniversary of the manufacture, the longest continuously running watch manufacturer of the world, by Jörg Haschek, who has a number of other interesting watch designs under his belt, including the first iteration of the Breguet Marine, for example. This is lot 88, with an estimated value that is set in the range between 20,000 to 40,000 in Swiss francs. Let's jump back to lot 1. This is a very interesting version of the Tudor Royale, which was apparently made for the Jordanian Royal Guard. It has that special insignia at 6 o'clock with the Jordanian Royal Crown superimposed over a blue dial. The Tudor Royal is basically the contemporary answer of Tudor to the Rolex day dates. Roman numerals, blue sunburst style, and expressions for both the date at 3 o'clock and through a slit at around 12 o'clock, also the day of the week, an engine turned bezel, and an interesting and unique example of a 5-link bezel that has a more or less integrated look to this case for the Tudor Royal. This is the reference 28600 in stainless steel, 37 millimeters in diameter, and once again with the blue sunburst dial that has the Jordanian Royal Crown at 6 o'clock. This is lot 1 of the rare watches auction at Christie's Geneva. Tudor Royale with a provenance that goes back to the Jordanian Royal Guard. The piece has a pre-auction estimate that's set between 5,000 to 10,000 in Swiss francs. Lot number 2 is a watch that has suddenly become ubiquitous. This is a version of the Tudor Black Bay 58, or rather the Blue Bay that was made in 2022 for special unit of the London Metropolitan Police, the Royalty and Specialist Protection Unit, which is tasked with the security of the members of the royal family, as well as deputies of the Parliament in the UK. The piece has perhaps the added charm, in addition to commemorating the Platinum Jubilee, because the RASP or RASPs symbol has the Tudor rose in it. So this peculiar Platinum Jubilee edition of the Black Bay 58 also manages to sneak the Tudor residue back to the face of the watch, which is quite cool and certainly something to be appreciated by Tudor fanatics and diehard collectors. The piece also has the royal cipher of Queen Elizabeth II on the caseback, and it commemorates, of course, the Platinum Jubilee that was celebrated in 2022, not long before the ultimate passing of Queen Elizabeth. There's also a similar Breitling Super Ocean Heritage 42 that has the same RASP provenance, and that is likewise connected to the Platinum Jubilee. This is one of 300 pieces. Again, another example of these pieces that have increasingly come to public attention and increasingly started cycling through the public auction circuits. This is lot number 2 for the Tudor Black Bay RASP Platinum Jubilee model from 2022. The piece is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere in the range between 6,000 to 12,000 in Swiss francs. I might wrap things up in the next 10 minutes. If you have any urgent questions, if you would like to squeeze in a super chat, or if you want to make any special requests for me to bring up any of the lots from this Christie's Geneva Rare Watches auction, please feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat, and I'll be able to deal with it depending on how I cope, because my back genuinely hurts. I might close in 10 minutes, or I might go for a little longer. If you want to incentivize that, if you want to encourage me to push on, feel free to do that. I'm looking at lot number 3, which is the Hulk, a version of the Rolex Submariner dates that has been discontinued since the 2020. This is the 11661 LV, which in so many ways itself replaced the 16610 LV, which was introduced in 2003 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Rolex's iconic dive watch design. That model, the so-called Kermit, of course, only had green aluminum bezel inserts to distinguish it from the Submariner dates. This piece has both green sunburst style and a green Cerachrome bezel. As you guys know, the Hulk has been replaced by the reference 126610 LV, which collectors affectionately call the Starbucks, and which only has the green Cerachrome bezel, which it combines with a black dial, which makes the discontinued piece perhaps a little more attractive, a little more desirable. The 116610 LV, of course, belongs to the Submariner 40 family, so to speak. Those Submariners with maxi dials and super cases, which some people started already missing, others had hated them throughout their existence, but certainly the Rolex Hulk, the 116610 LV, has always stood out and has had its moments after its discontinuation. Perhaps it's not hyped up into the stratosphere, at least not just yet, but it's still highly collectible, perhaps more so after it became discontinued. There's an example of it at lot 3 with the full set of its accessories, and the piece has a pre-auction estimate between 12,000 to 18,000 in Swiss francs. Okay, it seems like I will cover maybe 2 more watches and then call it a night. Let's go with some high pieces. Much like the Rolex Hulk, which upon its release in 2010 was not immediately popular. In fact, perhaps was almost reviled. The so-called Jammer, when it was released in 2016 at Basel World 2016, along with the 116500 LN, which introduced the ceramic bezel stainless steel versions. This piece perhaps lived for a while under their shadow. This piece perhaps was not so incredibly desired because it was in precious metal. because it didn't have the new hot ceramic tachymeter bezel, because it had the green dial, which at the time wasn't really hyped. For all these reasons, it took a while, some might say even a long while, for the 116508, the so-called John Mayer, to pick up some steam. The real lighting of the spark dates back to that second episode of Talking Watches, when Ben Clymer brought back John Mayer to show off more pieces from his collection. And John Mayer, in fact, pulled out not only an example of the 116508, but also 116509, both of which are discontinued now, with the latter being fully executed in white gold with a matching oyster bracelet with polished center links and sunburst blue dial with red accents. And he said it was almost a matter of time that the 116508 especially would step out of the shadow of its stainless steel kin and grab some of that spotlight itself, because it had that winning combination of green and gold that in so many ways symbolizes Rolex, and the rest was history in a way. So these pieces are still very popular, perhaps shot up significantly right after the Rolex Cosmograph Daytona family was renewed and these pieces were discontinued. The prices are maybe stabilizing now. I think they still have some time to drop, a little further to go, and the only direction is down. But the prices have stabilized quite a bit from those days that followed upon the discontinuation, and therefore the lot 11 for this John Mayer Daytona has an estimated value that is set in the range between 35,000 to 55,000 in Swiss francs. The last watch that I will talk about today, please hit the like button if you haven't done so already. If you're on your way out, please feel free to hit the like button. I'll see you guys soon enough. I think I'll come back with this auction. Here's a Meteorite Daytona in white gold with baguette cut bezels on, baguette cut diamonds on its bezel. It is a white gold piece that is presented on a leather strap. It has a meteorite dial that Rolex galvanically paints to this rather neutral shade, which actually fits quite nicely with the color scheme of a white gold Daytona. Once again, the meteorite dials have currently disappeared from the catalog too within the Daytona range, which is an interesting model for these kinds of watches popping up in the auction circuits. This is lot 15, which is the 116589BR. White gold on leather strap with the matching Rolex deployant clasp, meteorite dial with applied Roman numerals, and red chronograph hands that resonate very nicely with the red Daytona writing on the dial, and nice baguette cut diamonds on the bezel of the watch that take place of the tachymeter. A very, very interesting piece indeed. It comes with the international guarantee card from 2020. Even though the exact numbers are not really known, these are understood to have been made only in a handful examples. This particular combination of meteorite dial and baguette cut diamonds on the bezel. Certainly a very fascinating piece to follow in terms of its ultimate fate on this auction on November 6th. Christie's Geneva Rare Watches. This is lot number 15, Rolex Cosmograph Daytona in white gold on the leather strap with a meteorite dial, baguette cut diamonds on the bezel, reference 116589BR. The pre-auction estimated value of the watch is set in the range between 60,000 to 100,000 in Swiss francs. Wow. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you, all of you who have gone back and forth in the chats. Thank you so much. Hit the like button if you have. I love you from the bottom of my heart. It really does help. That little bit of a boost gives me the slightest bit of exposure, but it's all good. Nick Butter, thank you so much for your super chats. Everyone who supports the channel in some other way, whether it is by making a contribution, sharing the link, liking the videos, leaving comments under them. I appreciate you all. Please don't forget to hit the like button on the way out. If you have somehow stumbled upon this live stream, I produce a lot of watch content here on the channel, especially in its intersection with personal stories and collective histories, as well as in its relation to men's style. So feel free to subscribe to the channel. I have new content basically every day of the week, so stay tuned. Otherwise, please continue wearing your watches and enjoying them. I'll be back with you on the next one. Hit the like button on the way out. I'll see you soon. Take care.